Welcome back to another reading and correcting of Crimson by me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and I, the Tiger's Supervisor. Today we are doing chapter 42. What am I supposed to do with all that? Alex asked himself as he looked at the amount displayed. Problem? Will ask, glancing up from his data pad. Yeah, have you seen how much money I'm getting? Will grinned. Lots. A lot was all right. Was right. Alex hadn't asked to see his cut. Even now, with only a jump left before reaching Somalia, he hadn't thought about money. But Leia had sent him a message asking him how he wanted his pay once he left the crew. I have no idea how to deal with this kind of money. There was so much that he was set for the rest of his life. Once he got Jack back, he'd be able to go get a place on a quiet planet and just enjoy each other's company. How do you deal with it? He asked Will. His friend reached in a pocket, pulled out a cred stick. Alex shook his head. I'm not putting that on a cred stick. I'd lose everything if it was stolen. Will shrugged. Many? Alex chuckled. Do you have any idea how many sticks I'd need? Even if I was willing to put 1,000 on each, I'm looking at a few thousand sticks. I'd need a truck to carry all that around. Need bank. Alex thought about it, then sighed. I can't put that into my account. The law is going to have programs monitoring it. There's still a warrant for my arrest from Luminex. Where do you keep yours? It can't all be on a stick. Will tapped the wall. In ship. Right, that made sense. He didn't have to worry about the law looking into the deposits. Unfortunately, that isn't going to work for me. Will tapped his ear. Coerce, hide it. Will laughed. Alex laughed. I'm not that good. The bank will notice such a large infusion of money. I don't know how many accounts I'd need to be split. I'd need to split the deposit, and I don't know how many accounts I don't know how many accounts I'd need to split the deposit enough they slip below the threshold. But they'd notice it if I created all of them. Will was thoughtful. Create some, give them over. Gen 2, Anna, everywhere. Oops. I appreciate the thought, but that would make the law notice you. Will canted his head, grinning. More than it already does, I mean, Alex added, then paused. But you're giving me an idea. Thanks, he added out. Oops, what the hell? What happened here? Asir was seated at the main console when Alex entered. She looked up. I'm just practicing. For sure, I'll let you have it. It's okay. One of the secondary will do for what I'm checking. He sat, put his earpiece in, and, after greeting and doing a quick check of the ship's system, he contacted his bank. He didn't go to his account, but made his way through the code until he was below the user interface. It only took a few seconds to know he wouldn't be able to do it, but he still tried for 5 minutes, to no avail. This wasn't like what he'd done for that criminal. Siphoning a little money from a lot of accounts was one thing, but now he wanted to create one location where he could put all the money he'd made. It wasn't just the security that was a problem, or the bank's coercionist. It was the number of redundancy in place to make sure each and every account was authentic. He could write programs to affect all of them, but there would be delays from the time he made the changes to that information reaching the program. If only one redundancy was faster, it could fail. He backed out, erasing all evidence, and he peeked in. Well, that isn't going to work. He grumbled. What are you trying to do? Asir asked. I was thinking of creating a user ID within my bank system to distribute the money I've made. I can't put it into my account. I just looked at the security, and it's too complex for me to let me do that. Then get it elsewhere. Alex chuckled. I can't just get an idea. I have to create it. as well as all the backing information, census report, life history, medical. That's probably a lot. There's probably a lot more to it. It's not that complicated. How do you do it? How do you know? Alex asked. I have 6 IDs. Really? How did you get them? I bought them from a girl I know. Everyone on the ship has more than one. We have to. We're all wanted by the law for something. We couldn't leave the ship without them. Alex had noticed that. But then how would he? His ID card had his name on it, but he didn't flash it all the time. Most places read it without him having to pull it out, and the card wasn't really where the information was. It just held the address where that information was contained. It would be simple enough for him to create a program that would change the address. He could even use multiple addresses, have them rotate. Shook his head. But I still have to create the ID, and I'd have to get in pretty deep inside multiple systems, not all of which are governmental. You don't create it, you take it. There are tons of IDs stored that no one's using. Government have repository full of them. Then they'll be protected. Not according to my friend. Alex couldn't believe that. Sure, governments were notoriously easy to get into, but within that, they had high security areas. Such a repository would have to be in there. Still, he didn't have anything to lose by taking a look. Found a government on the open net, and a small one out of the way, and stepped in. He looked around, found a handful of higher security zones within that system, then, far too easily as far as he was concerned, the space where the IDs resided. A lot of them were blank IDs waiting to be assigned to a newborn, but a lot more than he expected had a history to them. He double-checked for any kind of security and didn't see any. So he pulled one out, a man who had died 58 objective years before. His name had been Harold Stinky. Wow. Stinky. And the whole of his life was there. Took the ID out of the repository, removed the death from it, and inserted it into the census. No alarm went up. Not even one sniffer program came to investigate what had happened. This had been far too easy. Found another government system, one slightly larger, closer to the core, where everything was monitored. This one had sniffers, but they didn't notice him under his cloak. He found the repository in a similarly unprotected area, and he was able to bring another person back from the dead, a Rosita Harmon. Sniffer looked at it, but then went away. Alex tried again with a larger system, again closer to the core, with the same result. On his 5th test, this one within a core government computer system, he was stopped the moment he entered. The security program detected his cloak and proceeded to start dismantling. He tried to disconnect, but that had been frozen by the system. He ordered a seer to shut down all communication, and just as trackers started on him, he was out. That was what he thought security should be like on a government system, but only a core government had used it. There were small numbers of core government. There were a small number of core governments compared to all of them in the universe, and if that was how the security was distributed, no wonder a seer had implied it was easy. He went back to that first system and looked into it, and looked in on Harold. He was still alive. He was still there. The census had even attached his health record from a medical database. Alex took a quick look at that and removed the death certificate. Again, no alarm went up. Alex leaned back in his chair and couldn't believe how easy this was. He decided to leave Harold alive and see what happened over the next few days, and went through the other census to remove the people he'd brought back to life. Over the next week, he checked in regularly while cataloging what the census looked for in a citizen. It didn't look for much. It required an address, did a scan for a death certificate every local year. It checked that the taxes were being paid, and nothing else. That was all it took to be alive? When Harold was fine after the week, Alex set to work. He found a list of addresses that were defunct, picked one of those, making it active within the government system, but nowhere else. That way, other than the census, no one would check it out. He made Harold a writer. Then, for safe measure, he created a social life for him. something limited. Indication he went to a coffee shop, did some traveling, small thing that would do for casual inspection. With that done as Harold, he contacted a bank and opened an account. He answered all the questions, and under 5 minutes, Harold had his very own bank account. Alex transferred a few thousand in it, payment for some private work, and then covered his track. Now, all he had to do was wait. Hey, Leia, Alex called to her as she looked through her crate. She smiled. How do you like being on the front line? Not as much as being on the bridge, but it's fun. How's this hull? Not as good as when you were on the bridge, but decent. When I'm done appraising it, I'll give you your cut. Don't worry about it. It isn't why I'm here. Do you have a list of what each ship I coerced carried? She pulled out datapad. Sure. Why? We're trying to work out how the people behind the trap ship managed to target us. I've looked at everything else I could think of, but now I'm wondering if we might not have some sort of cargo profile. You should ask the captain. He'll tell you what he looked for. He isn't there to satisfy my curiosity. Still would. I'm ready to send them to you. Alex took out his pad and the files appeared. This doesn't answer my question. I'll go see him. Deleted the manifest from that first job. It hadn't been picked with him in mind. The next two lists listed a lot of different things, but the one following that was a smaller shipment of crystal from Albany. Small, fragile, but valuable. His mother had loved them. So that, artisan pottery from Uganyu too, so definitely fragile and small. But yeah, that cargo from the Tiffany, was that the cargo from the Tiffany valuable? She looked it up. Yeah, the rich folks at the core are going crazy over that stuff. Something about them being the last ever made or something. Alex continued looking. Processor chip, components for hovers, luxury hovers. He found out, checking historical pieces from Barony 8. He had a twinge of guilt over that one, but he pushed it down. As he continued looking, they all had a common thread. High value, but easily damaged. Same as with the data pad that the trap ship had carried. The captain had become predictable. Still, what were the odds he'd found the one ship that was a trap? Even if the cargo was exactly what he was looking for, it couldn't be the only ship with something like that. Leia, you went to the trap ship, right? I helped move the cargo after you controlled it. You had control of it, yeah. What's your opinion of it? How long do you think it would take to load something like that? Depends on how much of a hurry you're in. Give me the right loaders, enough of them, and I can fill the hole in a few hours. Why? Trying to figure out how they got to us. Alex tapped his data pad. We've been going after similar cargo, so that's how they baited us. But how could they make sure the ship would be close enough to the captain to go after? Maybe they have a fleet. If that's true, then I'm definitely not the only coercionist to go pirate. That's the only way getting a fleet makes sense. Okay, then if we're working with one ship and figure out the most probable route, put out a bunch of manifests, all of them seemingly unrelated, but with the kind of cargo my target wants, and I make sure that all the ships those manifests are linked to are actually the same, but with different tags and such. Wouldn't that mean the cargo might not match what's in the hold? Then I put out multiple of the same cargo. Then I put out multiple of the same manifests, just changing the ship it's attached to. The captain finds the first one he likes, stops looking, and he doesn't realize there are more of them out there. Alex nodded. Makes sense. Minimize the expense, maximize the exposure, and because it's fragile, it will attract only a certain type of pirates, one with a coercionist on board. So even if more than one takes the bait, they're still getting coercionist pirates out of circulation. And if we don't go for them, she said, when two ships go after the same. If we don't do it for them, she said, when two ships that's if we don't do it for them, she said. When two ships go after the same cargo, it tends to result in a firefight. Alex nodded. The system, they seem to want me alive, but I don't think they would have cared if I'd ended up dead. But what if, what if a pirate without a coercionist shows up? She eyed him. You did see the level of armament they had, right? They might have set this up to catch someone like you, but they could have taken down anyone who attacked them. She went back to looking at the crates. Don't worry about it. It won't happen again. If it's really because we were predictable, the captain learns fast, but if you want, you could tell him your theory. I doubt he'll listen to me. You tell him. You can even take the credit for it. Leah looked over, shook her head. Never give up credit, Crimson. In this job, it's about the only thing you have. Alex considered for a moment, then left Leah to go look for the captain. And that concludes chapter 42. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next one is going to be, subscribe and hit the bell. If you want to read the rest, the story, as well as the other book in the series, they are available on all major e-retailer. If you want to support me, you can do so on Patreon and have access to just about everything I've written. And should you want to watch me do these live, it is on Twitch every Tuesday morning at 8 a.m. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.